Whenever you're ready, I'm recording. Go ahead, Kelcy.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for such a lovely introduction. This is really great to be here. And I have some things I hope that will help you. And I'm certainly available at other times for more information. I also want to state that as you'll see as we go through, I am not going to talk about some of the nuts and bolts about grant writing, like spell check and delivery, stapling, none of that stuff. So we are going to talk about getting there and what's important. So let's start here. So what the insiders know about grant writing is that before you even get there, there are relationships. That insiders know who the shot callers are, how to actually reach the wizard. So the challenge is getting to the Wizard of Oz, right? And a lot of times funders seem untouchable. So sometimes that's all you need to know to get through. Also, the lay of the land and the importance of outcome measurement, and then how to say thank you and remembering to say thank you. So we'll start with access. So how in the world do you reach a funder? Well, one is your network. Don't ever downplay your network. You could know someone else could know someone. Actually, Yolanda has spoken about networking and the power of it, and being a member of when you are, networking with women, but just don't ever think, oh, I don't know anybody. Oh, I don't know them and I don't know how to do it. So there are different ways to reach funders through your network. What you should do yourself or organization is have a tree. And you just start the kind of brainstorming trees that there are. And you say, well, who am I? Who do I know? It includes your children, your religious groups, your friends, and your neighbors, because they are all parts of groups or persons, and that includes places. So then for funders, there are, oh, and please let me know if I'm going fast or if you have questions or to go back. I do that sometimes.
So for me, Kelcy, can you just go a little bit slower?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Like that.
I appreciate it.
Sure. So there are direct contacts where you may actually know a person, or for family foundations, sometimes they are the person. They are the only person. Sometimes families have representatives or spokespersons, and depending on the family fund or their size, or honestly how new the money is, they could have a lawyer as representation where they say, I inherited this money, I want to start a fund, I want to give it away, but that's all I want to do. And someone does it for them. So part of the know is finding out what kind of place you are applying to. And so with indirect, as I said, you want to know who knows them, and does the funder hold them, in quotations, whoever that person or group is, do they hold them in high regard? Because if they don't, that's not a direction you may want to go in. Then there's always cold calling. And I think I'm going to talk about, excuse me, connecting to organizations a little bit later. But cold calling would be, oh my goodness, the Cleveland Foundation has a new COVID-19 grant. Well, I want it. So what do I do? And you just call. So what you do first is find out who you're calling. Now you can just call the operator, and most likely they will direct you to the grant manager. Every grant has a grant manager, and sometimes more than one. And I just want you to know that often they are more accessible than you think. Okay. And emailing or calling, and they will answer questions, and they'll also let you know if there's a formal format or process. They will not hesitate to tell you. So in these relationships that I touched on, you want to build them, you want to foster them, and you want to maintain them. So often relationships begin by, like I said, being an organization who develops a program and you want to seek out a funder. So one example is the one I just gave where you're cold calling. And another is when you are meeting a need. Actually, that can go with the same example because we're in the midst of a pandemic. So funds are starting, they're just suddenly appearing. Oh, there's COVID-19 money. Maybe we can get that. Maybe. So then, are you meeting an ongoing need? Like, are you curing homelessness? Are you feeding the masses? Are you doing something that is a continual issue? Or a good example is voter outreach. That's over. But I just use the Cleveland Foundation as a reference because they've been doing some things with COVID money recently that I've had to look into. So do you meet an ongoing need or is it an emergency? So for an emergency, you still have to qualify, you still have to call and know who it is you're talking to. But I can tell you that it is much easier for an organization to get funds from someone they have already gotten money from, who have a trust, credibility, and a track record. So now I know that doesn't help those who are new and looking for money, but for instance, if there's COVID-19 money and the organization knows who can do something with that money, they're going to be very inviting, and because they know they have the capacity to do it. So some organizations wanted to do things for voter outreach, which was particularly challenging during the pandemic. So some organizations already in those neighborhoods that needed reach the most may already know how to disseminate information or how to find those residents that often are hard to find and who don't always vote. Oh, also, if there are chats or questions, I might not see them while I'm talking. It's okay to just let me know. Does someone have a question? Okay. So I want to talk about prospect research. So when you're going to write a grant or you're looking for funding, it's one thing to just, like we said, oh, I need money and I want to look. But keep your file ready because you're always going to need money. So I stress keeping a file, like really a file, whether it's on your computer or paper, as many people still have. What you're doing is saying, oh, I know this person had COVID relief money. What else do they fund normally? And you file that away. Often funders fund the same general ideas, but they may be able to fund other projects at some time. So, especially if it's emergency relief. So, for instance, with that, you have something, you're a social service agency and you know you can have county money, but the county is having a new program. So you're able to go back through your file or now on the internet and see what they funded before perhaps, or what's new about this money, or if they have a new venture, how close is it to you? So we're gonna touch on that some more also. So when you're looking for prospects, always go by location. Where are you located? Here where we're strong with suburbs in Cleveland, they sometimes have their own funds through different associations, as well as Greater Cleveland. You will also find that some monies are only for Cleveland zip codes. And you say, well, but I'm in the suburbs. Sometimes it's your location and sometimes it's your constituents and to whom you are serving. So I don't want you to count anything out. So I'm looking for location. You go by your sector, social service, education, and always government. Now, when you're doing prospect research, you are taking ideas and saying, who could fund this? What could help me? But also you're just trying to stack names and files. You may not have what the Gun Foundation is funding right now. although your mission remains the same, it is possible that you have something later when they have a new venture. So in doing this work, it's heavy on the internet, and there's also other programs. But if you are an organization, which could be one person, be large enough to have an intern, interns are great. This is some of the most boring work ever, I'll be honest. And as an intern, it's one of the first things I did. It was extremely boring because I had to go to a database, and my boss said, okay, I want you to search for more funders. How do you do that? It was an access database. Do you remember those? And you're going through, I'm looking, I don't know these people. I don't know what they do. I mean, I found foundations. Here's an example of a family foundation who was an Irish foundation, and they funded Irish projects and organizations. Okay, is that us at all? Maybe, because are any of your constituents Irish? Does it have to do with religion? Are you religious in any way? What have they done in the past? And then honestly, sometimes you're like, oh, no, that's not for us at all. And we don't qualify. You don't know unless you look. So when you do your prospect research, you're looking to see who they are, where they are, and what they fund. And so this particular foundation I'm speaking about, it was one of those where someone had inherited money from a family member and they didn't want to do it. And when I actually called, it was a lawyer who was managing who also didn't want to do it. So no, we didn't qualify, but you never know until you try. So with that said, do you need donor management software? Maybe, but it depends. How much are you fundraising? Is it hundreds of thousands of dollars? Do you have large government grants? Are you an educational institution? Most of us do not need them. But recently I spoke with one of the universities who had an athletic organization, and they wanted something to keep track of their donors and their funds. Well, that makes sense. And so I was able to guide them to something that was free and smaller and show them what they did not need. Like they didn't need that large database that I had to look through. Sometimes what larger organizations need, you don't at all. So know yourself and know your level and keep your mission in mind. Always know who's calling the shots. So I touched on this a little bit, but when you are fundraising and you're looking for grants specifically, you need to know who manages them and then how it's managed. So the easiest to talk about right now are public. There's legislation, there's politics, and climate. So once I attended a board member of a board meeting of a nonprofit that I worked for, I lost my job in the meeting that I was attending because the grant was exhausting and they weren't going to fund it. And I was like, oh, that's me. Oh, you just cut my I am currently unemployed, like in the board meeting. I was like, okay, what do you do with that? But that is what a board meeting is for. But they can go so fast. So I'm going to touch on more about that when you're writing your grants. There's so many different experiences you can draw from, but what I'm saying with that example is know what affects your money. So this current climate we're in, there could be monies that people have designated for certain programs. So let's say they feed people. Well, if people are dying and they're sick, they might take some of that money and you'd be hungry, but you're still alive. So they're going to fund the sick people at that moment. You just never know. And sometimes they take money from somewhere, and sometimes they're add additional money, like we've seen with the CARES Act. And then, as you know, some things change with politics and what their focus is. The focus will change instantly. So just knowing that and knowing the organization's focus will prevent you from submitting a grant or going for something. And you're like, did they even look at it? Why didn't they tell me they didn't even want this? So you can't just look on the website and say, oh, they fund this. even get the application and turn it in, and you did work for no reason. It happens. So now I want to point you toward, before you start, know who's reviewing the applications. You need some direction and lay of the land. You need to know the time frame. What are the phases of the grant making process? For instance, you could apply for a grant that's $50,000, but you're only getting 25 this year. That can really change your plans on your project execution. You want to know if the funder will make site visits, depending on the kind of institution you are, and how will the awardees be notified? I have heard stories of people who got money and didn't know. It could have been a letter in the mail, and you think something so silly, how would they not know? Well, they mailed it to a board member's house who didn't check their mail or was working out of the country. You just never know. So you want to make sure you have that communication and know what the funder is doing in their organization. They may tell you dates, not just dates when to put it in, but dates they will accept phone calls, dates that they will disseminate information, and they're all very important. I want everyone to have realistic expectations. So there's the interim or the after and the meantime. You have to plan for alternate funding and actually include it in your packet. Funders, especially large ones, want to be change agents and they want to help you do something, but they're not going to carry you or be your funder all the time. Many times they won't pay salaries or they'll just have stipulations. But what they want to know is that your goal is to keep working and that you're not just accepting a check, your program's over and that's it, and expect it on an annual basis, for instance. So they want you to see your plan for alternative funding. And Julia Mastov may know this. When you are fundraising, what else are you doing? Are you selling tickets? Or do you have membership fees? How can you cover some of your costs, especially capital? Because a lot of funders only fund programs. So look at the grant as an initial step for what you're doing. You are getting us started. We need you to carry out this particular program or part of our mission. And this is how we plan to carry on. Even if you know in your head that you're going to be applying for that money every year or every 2 years, you'll still need to show them what you did with it and why you still deserve it or want more. Also, keep in mind that partnerships are valuable, not just partnerships with a funder, but collaborations. So while you should be cautious, don't be afraid to collaborate. Sometimes some nonprofits do one thing and the other does another. They would rather see you be able to say, I do this very well, and we are strong, and we have this strong partner who does this other thing very well. You'll just need to show in your finances who's doing what and how the money will be used. But they too, the funder, wants to be your partner, and that is often welcomed. There are just other things on the back end you would have to do, like who's managing the money. And be who you say you are. Don't be a money chaser. A lot of nonprofits say, I could do this, I could do this. If you are focusing on homelessness, then collaborate with someone who feeds people if your homeless clients also need to eat. If you cannot do both. Or don't say that you are doing voter and census work when you have nothing to do with it, just because that's the now and there's money. You have to be very careful because everyone can do something and is capable, but sometimes funders say, well, who are you really? Because you're doing this. Sorry, I hope you can't hear that garage. So they are, who are you really? Who are you to us? And how are you helping our community? Or are you just taking money for whatever? It can be seen, they know. And a beginning is just that. If you are a new organization, they don't expect you to carry the world and have these great big solutions. That's what a vision is. And that is why you have a vision, is something to work towards. But they know you're beginning and will most likely want to help you. Maybe this should have been part of research, but Google can be your best friend. It's also your worst enemy. So when you're Googling and looking for research for funders or programs or even templates, because they're on there for grants, you don't, say for instance, you don't want to get a template of a grant, write it and turn it in, and then have a foundation say, well, that's not what we told you to do, or this was online and you were supposed to download it. There's a lot of checks and balances. Again, so know the rules. You have a grant application, so now what? Do what your funder says do. Some things I just touched on. If I can, I want to go to this to show this to you. So you need to know what they want. Yes.
Okay.
And this should be in line with their mission. The same as yours should be in line. When I consult for board development or just other things, or organizational development, I'm always trying to teach people that there should be a straight line from your mission to your programming. And while they don't have to be exactly the same, there's a line that always follows. So if you are a healthcare or social services organization, on your board, you should have persons from those type of organizations or with those expertise. And then going down to your constituents, it should show that you are helping people with those issues or providing them a service that's in line. And so that's something that they look at. Is this in line with what you told us that your mission is? Okay, so now I'm just going back to the presentation. Thank you. It is then so big, it takes extra postage if you're supposed to mail it, or there's just always things that happen. So, and it always takes longer than you think. Some people work very well last minute, but it's in your best interest to move your last minute to before their deadline still. I mean, honestly, some of us work very well at night. I'm only a morning person because I have a kindergartner. She wakes up earlier than I'd like any day. And I'm definitely do my best work sometimes at 1 a.m. So I'm a morning person only forced, and I write very well at night, like between 11 and 2. I don't know why, but I do. So it helps to know yourself. And I can't do that when she has school in the morning, but I can on Friday night. She'll still wake up on Saturday morning, but then there are cartoons. No, we have limited screen time. So the timeline, you need to know theirs and plan ahead, move yours early. It gives you time. And you want to follow the funder's outline. Give them what they want. So this should be part of your process. So you need to do what they say, but a general proposal outline looks like this. It should be some type of book. Some are smaller, some are a form, and some are really heavy like books, depending on your appendices. So I worked for an arts organization once, and it was educational programming. So I actually wrote the grant, but then I had to review the appendices, which were our programming, that some I had written, some other people's had written, but I had to make sure they were up to date. I ended up needing to make changes. And of course, we did take it from a grant we had previously written, but you have to be very careful of that. So you always have a table of contents, executive summary, and your statement of need. Why are you here? Why are you asking me for money? And this is where you say what the need is there, and you use statistics also. Just make sure your statistics are correct. Have to give you one more personal example. I worked for an education institution. They wanted Title IV money. They did not qualify. That was a moral dilemma, and we parted ways. So their statistics showed that they were in this location, address, zip code, and they were helping people or students in another zip code that qualified for Title IV money, but that was not their actual physical location. And the location for the office that they used or were writing the grant from, etc., was a pretty well-off district. There were problems. So sometimes, because the constituents you serve are different than where you are, you just have to be careful and know what it says. And so you want to say there's a need, no matter what it is, and you would like numbers, but you also are giving a face. This is something that I was good at personally, showing the need, which comes in your project description. So you're showing these persons and their need, or there are children who aren't able to be in the Special Olympics, but they should be, and this is why. And you create this picture in a concise way without going on and on telling stories, which is hard because I can talk. So I had to learn my writing to be different.
Kelcy, let me ask you a question. First, would you put your screen up so we can see your beautiful face and not the papers on your desk?
Oh, I'm so
Thank you. Hi. So the first part was all the technical stuff about trying to find a grant and how you do that, and then a little bit of hoop jumping. But now you're getting to the writing part, and I get the hoop jumping, right? I get it. But I understand that many of these, if it's not, a grant is not eliminated because of the lack of checking a box. The writing is what's the persuasive part. And maybe you talked about it enough, but I didn't quite get. I get what your goals are here because it has to fit their thing. It has to do all that, which to me is hoop jumping. But what makes you said you write really well at night. And what is that thing that's in the writing that gets you seen differently? You know, like when we do our 30-second here, what makes it memorable? What is it in your writing that you could share with us that would make my grant be accepted over Kathy's grant, for instance?
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry I don't have an example at this time to show you.
So just your gut, because you do it all the time. What's your gut? Tell me.
It shows a need and capacity together. So it could be two separate paragraphs sometimes, and you say, I am here to feed people, and you paint a picture by, sometimes I will actually use an example, and like not a case study, but an example. There is this person, and every night they sleep. Oh, a real person I see, sleeping in this bus stop on Superior, downtown. They're there every day. Their cart is behind them, filled with their belongings. Their day is over, and they may feel they have a place to lay their head. It is quiet, it's dark, it is cold in Cleveland.
Okay, you can write for me. I need something. That's a good story.
Well, however, they don't all want that. And sometimes you can tell, because when you talk to them or ask them, or best, which I may not have said yet, it may be on a different slide, go to their meetings and they tell you, they may say, we want this clear and concise. We don't need any stories. We know about Cleveland, and we just tell us what you need. Sometimes they will really say that, and then they don't want to hear all that. But that is sometimes what I can do in one paragraph, and then have numbers to back it up. Some people really need that.
Yeah, there's a lot more research besides me just going online to see what I qualify for, jumping through the hoops and writing. I need to do some boots on the ground, other things if I want to win that grant, how much time is usually used in creating a grant to be accepted? I mean, some people, I mean, they're grant writers for a living, right? I mean, this is a job, and we all women here are professionals, and we hire professionals because we can't do everything, even though most days we think we can, but we can't. But on grants, what's the time frame on that?
Well, let me see. It depends on what you're doing. It can be a month. For an established organization who has them all the time, I would say 2 to 4 weeks, because they're going to go back on something they already have. But let's say for us who are starting, you need a couple months when you have nothing already, or when you have clients or work during the day and you're doing this on the weekend. You need blocks of time, and you start where you are. So if you have a program, you start talking about your program, and you'll figure out what you don't have quickly. Or you start with the grant outline. Sometimes if you use that outline as an outline to write, kind of like, well, do you remember in a middle school or elementary school, you learn and you write with thesis sentences? Use their outline that way. And that's how you start to get your words.
What about on timing? If you submit it, I'm a little bit persistent, and I would follow up to make sure. What about the follow-up? Like, can you harm your good writing and application by persistently checking on your status?
Yes. I was just trying to think of the last one. I asked questions before, and I did ask questions after. So it's okay to confirm the submission. If it's electronic, they will automatically give that to you. It could be automatic, or they send you an email. There's nothing wrong with calling. Calling excessively is a problem. You need to give them time to respond. And often they will give you instructions. Some will say, don't call. Some will say, this is how you'll know we received it. So you can submit, you can ask for receipt when you expect it to be there if you mail it. If it's electronic, it can be a couple days. And if you are on a deadline, you can call, but you might not want to ask the grant manager. Hopefully you will know their secretary and say, I just wanted to see if it was received.
So I always have so many questions. I have more questions, but I want you to know we have about 10 minutes left. And so I want to finish your slides because there may be other questions. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, but you really prompted me, so thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so I talked about some of this, and the funders want to create change. So when we're talking about those narratives, they want to know that you're easy to work with, that you can deliver. So in consulting, I help people with capacity building of their organization, and that depends on their mission and what they want to do. So the funder needs to know that you know what you're doing and that you have the capacity, which is why some people collaborate. If you don't, say you don't, but say what you're going to do about it. I think that's important.
That's a good tip.
And know someone. This is not bad to do. There's always someone that came before you. Depending on how friendly you are with them, they may let you see it. Sometimes after you have all the directions, you feel like, oh, I don't know if I know what to do. Ask to see an old one. Just don't take it for gold because the funder could have changed and said organization could have done what they needed to before, but it's just different this time. And it's like the library. There's no reason why you can't use your resources and look at an old one. Adhere to their deadlines. Remember that it is a relationship and that you can ask questions, but use your critical thinking. If they have info sessions, go. Go. It's it builds a relationship. They see you, they know who you are, at least a representative. So then when you call back, you say, hi, I'm Kelcy and I attended this session, or I'm interested. You can even say, I'm really new to this process, but I value whatever it is. I value your expertise and your education, so I want to be there. And you know, you don't have to grovel, but they need to know that you're interested. And it's always about deadlines. Oh, you know what else I want to say? When it comes to deadlines, they really may want them in a certain way and at a certain time. Too early can also be an issue. They're just not ready for it, or you send it and they store it and forget about it. You just want to know everything the way they want it. So here are some resources. They're not gold. Well, this one is. Sorry about that. What I mean is, the Foundation Center 20 years ago was my everything. And it is combined with GuideStar and is now Candid. And some things cost money, but some things are free. And GuideStar is the section of Candid where you can look up organizations. Some people don't know how their organization shows up to others. Like, did you lose your nonprofit status and get it back, but GuideStar says you don't have it? That's important.
Kelcy, I think that's a hyperlink that if you click it, we might be able to see how the Foundation Center and GuideStar combine.
Oh, this one works.
Yeah, click that one and see if that'll work for us.
Thank you.
Just in case anyone hasn't seen that. And I haven't been on GuideStar since they combined anyway. Did that open in a different screen on your machine? Yeah, it didn't open on here.
Oh, it did.
Open in a different file.
Yeah, so you have to escape again, go to your desktop and click the thing that opened up. There we go. Oh,
There you go.
nicely done.
Thank you. So this About Us is a little bit that shows you how they combined it, because it's very confusing for people who used the Foundation Center for everything. They were just everything. I went to their workshops. I researched under them, and the combo kind of threw me. So I like to show people what it is.
Scroll
and
down
that there's a lot here for you.
Yeah, how do you look for, okay, good. Oh, I see.
So this directory online is what has all of the grants, and it can just be overwhelming. This is also at the library. Please know, you can go to the library and, oh, when you look it up, there's a location finder. I'm not sure, here it is. I realize, do I need to reshare that too?
No, we can see it.
What are we, what's it doing, location finder?
Just find us.
Oh,
okay,
I see.
here it is. So do you see, this is the FIN access locations. These are buildings, but these blue stars, like if you go more into it, it will show you it's at Cleveland Heights Library, and you can sit there and research organizations online, because it's a big database and they have it there for you to use.
Can you back up a second? Are you saying that this is a pay to play, but the library, you can get it for free, or can I just do it from my home?
You can go to the library. You have to buy it to use it at your house.